Let me start with the Earned Income Tax Credit, which the state has abolished. The Earned Income Tax Credit is a relatively complex policy matter to understand when you're trying to describe it to voters. So I've been thinking about this, and so basically what I think people should understand about it is, instead of the state giving money to people directly in the form of some type of public assistance, the Earned Income Tax Credit allows you to earn back tax money based on how much you're working. And so if you're working more up to a threshold, you're actually going to benefit from having the Earned Income Tax Credit to help get you, boost you out of poverty, basically. So it's a way to reward people for working rather than just receiving. And I think that would be it is one of the best public policy ways. In order for us to have those jobs, my time is almost up, but I would say that we are really going to have to consider, how do we grow jobs in North Carolina? Especially without a strong education system, we're having a hard time recruiting jobs here. And so we really need to support the entrepreneurial side to grow the jobs ourselves.
So I'll pick up a little bit on some of that. There are lots of jobs in North Carolina that are going unfilled. And those jobs are going unfilled because the workers don't have the skills. One thing that we could do would be to inventory those jobs and make sure that there are programs at community colleges that can train people to take those jobs, and to put in place a program where the government pays for that. Now, one of the things that Greg mentioned under Earned Income Tax Credit was taxes. And I think it's very important for us to start having that conversation about taxes. How do we support these essential services? Historically, the idea is that you actually pay for programs as you go. Nationally, we don't pay for our wars anymore. We just add them to the debt. But at the state level, we have a requirement for a balanced budget. So I think that we need to decide what essential programs are and develop a fair tax system. I would also, in addition to restoring the Earned Income Tax Credit, I would restore the progressive graduated state income tax.
Valerie, and if you could also talk about the minimum wage a little and
Well, certainly I think it's time that we increase the minimum wage and that we do tag it to the consumer price index. But it seems to me that we should also look at ways to enhance what we already have. We know that there's, connected with the expansion of Medicaid, about 23,000 jobs. In those situations where we know we can benefit from bringing industry or bringing, again, expanding Medicaid, that's something we should do. I think that, as Verla said, if we're talking about recruiting industry to North Carolina, we have to ensure that North Carolina residents are prepared and skilled for whatever labor we're bringing here. And I think that when we talk about our education system, we're talking about community colleges, we're talking about our colleges and universities, but we want to ensure that people in North Carolina are prepared for jobs that can come. And we can't do that unless we know that our workforce is skilled.
okay. So let's see here. We're going to go back to the commission, and Gary, you're going to get the question first. There was a report issued by the ACLU, I think it was about 6 or 8 weeks ago, about the militarization of local law enforcement agencies. And in that, while the law enforcement agencies specifically were not mentioned, we do know that somewhere in Orange County we have an armored vehicle and we have some other military hardware. So my question for you and Mia is, would you support revealing what the Orange County Sheriff's Office has received from the Department of Defense and their reason for accepting it?
Yes, I would. This came up on orangepolitics.org recently, and on it I mentioned that when the 8th building first happened, I approved of the police action, and I blogged out says I think we need to reconsider it, so I definitely would in favor of reconsidering this on releasing what we have and if they're being used and do we really need this stuff. You know, from what I heard, Many times Chapel Hill said, we don't need this, and it says, you got it, it's yours, you know, so they're stuck with it at this point, you know, whether you like it or not, they can't get rid of it so fast, you know, unless they will give it back to the Army or something, but they're stuck with their equipment right now.
Okay, and pull the mic a little closer.
Yes, I would absolutely believe that we should be public about that. It's impossible for me to believe there's a national security reason to keep it secret what kind of military equipment is in Orange County. My understanding was that some of it was that they were heavy trucks, and I don't know the military vehicle vocabulary, but that they were using to help clear after the big ice storm, and perhaps that's appropriate. It probably is appropriate, but there's no reason not to have, and that I can see that you would not release what that information is.
Gary, did you have anything to add? Okay. Going back to the legislature, and we'll start with Valerie. Oh, it's Verla's turn? Okay. Verla, you're on the hot seat. This actually, when I first moved to North Carolina, I must say I was confused by the lack of what we know as home rule, meaning that local governments have to get permission from the state to practically put up a stop sign. I mean, it's not quite that bad. But could you talk, and in this last session, we've seen local governments be stripped of more and more of their power. Local governments cannot stop fracking, it's my understanding. They can oppose it symbolically, but they can't actually tell frackers they can't come to their county. Airports have been taken away, water systems. So could you talk a little bit about what the chances are that, we'll just call it home rule, could be instated at some point, or how do we combat that?
Well, we haven't had home rule because we don't allow counties or cities to impose taxes without the approval of the General Assembly. But counties are really a creation of the General Assembly. They were created in order to be able to deliver human services, like school boards, the local school board districts. That's a creation of the General Assembly in order to allow the schools to have a local entity where they know the people, and that's the idea behind counties. So counties deliver health care, social services, and a lot of other programs that are funded by the federal government through the state that go down to the county. I'm very much opposed to taking away the authority of counties to make decisions over their own utilities, and I would hope that we would stop interfering in taking away what little home rule they do have.
And we'll go to Greg and then to Valerie.
You know, this is really only an issue when the ideology of people in the General Assembly gets in the way of pragmatism of running municipalities and counties. And I'll give you an example of the way the ideology comes out in the General Assembly. So during the short session, one of the bills that we heard was to take away the town of Boone's extraterritorial jurisdiction. So without getting into what an ETJ, an extraterritorial jurisdiction is, I'll just tell you that the Republican senator who presented this bill in the House said that the problem was that the town of Boone was an oppressive tyranny, and we needed to take away their ability to be an oppressive tyranny. And I was quite amused that he found no irony in asking the state legislature to take away the town's ability to make their own rules.
You can't make this up.
You can't make it up, and it's hard for me to add anything to what's been said. But I do hope that as we move forward, that we don't move to continue to take away local jurisdictions' ability to serve the people who are closest to them. I think that having served as a school board member and as a commissioner, I think one of the things that I learned in both cases is that all politics is local, and that people who serve locally best understand what the needs of local jurisdictions are.
Okay. So moving on back to the commissioners, and Mia gets it first this time. Orange County, actually I think I'd like to go to listing your top 3 priorities for the county.
So, along the lines of what I talked about in terms of what my background is, my priorities are absolutely making sure that we continue our very, very strong education system, not just K-12, but also the community college that we now have here. for all the reasons we've talked about in terms of jobs and labor and all those kinds of things. So, and I certainly think my years on the school board prepare me to assist with that. Human services are huge. It's actually, when you combine education and human services, it's it's well over half the county's budget, although those issues don't get talked about primarily because of the people that are served aren't always the most vocal. And I do believe that we have to figure out how to pay for that, if at all possible, without raising property taxes, not because I'm pandering, but because I don't want to price people out of the county who are really having a hard time staying here now. But in order to have those values, and to continue to support what we value here, we need to diversify our tax base to pay for it.
Gary?
My three priorities are education, of course, responsible budgeting, and economic developing. What Mia had said is true, but the truth of the matter is, the current board of commissioners, they say they want to help all these people, but actually the policies such as raising taxes, the people that they really want to help, they're actually forcing them to leave the county, so actually it's counterproductive. We need a responsive form of budgeting, set our priorities straight. And when I was running for Chapel Hill Town Council, I was a big in favor of priority budgeting, and I think that's what we should be doing on a countywide level. Get our priorities straight, to stop quit taxing the people, and that's where my economic development plan comes in for that, encouraging more businesses.
So, just as a quick follow-up, if you're not going to raise taxes, then where does the revenue come from?
Well, you heard, like I said, actually you have to go line by line, cut unnecessary services and keep those essential services. I know, I asked one of the former county manager before he I said, what would your idea be about possibly giving less to the charity groups and focus more on paying for other essential